Good morning and welcome to this September the 9th version of From Sunrise to Sunset with Pastor Gene. Today we're going to be looking at another miracle story from Matthew 14:21 to 33. And this, of course, is the story of Jesus walking on the water. Now, what's happening here is first, when Jesus, in the previous passage, when Jesus was going away and the crowds followed him, he was in a process of grief. He was trying to mourn the death of John the Baptist. And sometimes that's what we need to do when we've had people to pass away. We just need some alone time. We need to reflect and we need to remember, and then we need to move on. And that's kind of what this story does. It's a time where there's a pause for reflection, but then there's a continued life to be lived. Jesus had tried to get away previously, but 5,000 people followed him, so he provided a meal for them. Now that he's done that, he goes away again, and this time he goes up on a high mountain, and the disciples go out on a boat, and a storm comes up, and Jesus goes to them in the storm, walking on the water. Now, there's a passage, I believe, over in Job 9 that talks about God walking on the water. And again, this is another way that Matthew connects Old Testament, the story of God walking on the water, now Jesus walking on the water. But in this story, we see something very interesting happen. A very interesting exchange takes place when the disciples are scared and they're crying out, help us, save us. And Peter is the one who says, Lord, if it's you, bid me come to you on the water. And so he did, and Peter got out of the boat, and Peter walked on the water. Now, this is important for two reasons. Number one, Peter becomes the representative of all of the disciples in this act, foreshadowing something that's going to come up a little later in chapter 16. But Peter steps out, and then he starts to sink. And when he starts to sink, a lot of people would beat Peter up over this and say, oh, well, you are nothing but a faithless, doubting person, because that sounds good. And we tend to take the side sometimes of bully types of faith, which to me is never appropriate. But what Peter's actually doing is confessing to Jesus. And what happens when he makes that confession? Well, Jesus saves him. Jesus saves him. And so in this story, we see confession of little faith and what it leads to, which is being saved, being rescued from this certain death. I mean, I wouldn't recommend anybody go out and try to walk across the ocean, but I would recommend that whatever is going on in our hearts and our lives, that we give that to Jesus, and Jesus will take care of it. And he always does. We see this in him trying to go away and take time to mourn his own loss. He continues to respond to our needs. And if we'll give that to him, as Peter did here in this story, then I think we'll find that our life will be a whole lot better from sunrise to sunset.